Hermes, draw near, and to my prayer incline, in arts gymnastic and in fraud divine.
Dire weapon of the tongue which men revere, be present, Hermes, in thy suppliant here.
Welcome to Third Eye Bind, Episode 3, Retrogrades.
Thank you for supporting the show by subscribing, rating, and sharing. Please join us at patreon.com/thirdeyebind. Enjoy the show. Hello. Welcome to Third Eye Bind. I'm Laura.
And I'm Caitlin.
And today we're talking about retrogrades. With an S.
Because there are many different kinds of retrogrades.
Because there are many different kinds of retrogrades.
Let's start by pulling a card like we always do. From our second edition, Siren of Songs tarot deck by Lady Moon Co., which is pink.
Shameless plug. Mm-hmm. The second edition today, huh?
Ooh, that's it.
Oh.
I like this.
Okay.
So I pulled the star reversed, and it's Dolly in this deck.
It is.
Here's the thing about this song. It's 9 to 5. And the quote we have here is, tumble out of bed, and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition. And this is certainly a song about like having to participate in the grind in order to have our very basic needs met. And this is something that we are all kind of stuck in at this moment and desire to find liberation from. And it can feel really overwhelming to think about you as one person creating change in this thing that is so much bigger than all of us, right? But what's interesting about retrogrades, especially Mercury retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, Pluto retrograde, is that we have these opportunities to pause by the blessing of the celestial entities, the celestial powers that be, to pause and really reconsider, what can we break free from? What can we shift out of? What small things are we able to divest from that allow us to return home to ourselves? And it can feel kind of frustrating when we're in retrogrades because things aren't moving according to plan, right? And the star, when it's upright, is a moment of you're exactly where you're meant to be. But reversed, it's like, well, why aren't you here yet? And not as a punishment or being chastised, right? It's not like, why didn't you work hard enough to get here? But it's, what's just not working for you? And how do we fix that? Retrogrades really allow us the space and the time and the capacity to figure this stuff out so that we can feel generally happier about existing on planet Earth. I love this card for us.
I love that. And it's true. Like, if nothing else, playing devil's advocate with, there's a lot. The first thing that comes to mind when I think of retrogrades and astrological powers is just the blatant disregard of any sort of force by the scientific community. Like, scientists are like, no, they don't affect us at all. And that's fine. But it makes me think of, like, if nothing else, those times are a period of reflection. Like, the planets are in motion and they are moving in a different direction. And so if nothing else, if you could argue that one could just take that time to actually reflect on specific things. And that's what that is. Like, isn't that a power of sorts, to even have the time to reflect or to see the value in the time to reflect? I don't know. It's an interesting topic, and not one that, I'm not an astrologer. We're not astrologers, but it's something that bleeds into the non-witch, a spiritual community. It's something that everyone seems to have an opinion about. So I find that interesting and worth mentioning, that there's a lot of just everyone's got different takes on it, because it is science, and science, as I believe science is a part of magic, and it's an interesting topic, you know?
This reminds me of a few different things. One, like, it's so funny when not just science, but really like patriarchal authority likes to reject things like astrology, because I think a lot of that has to do with them being femme-centered interests. So we discount them, but also, like, I always have this saying in the back of my mind that, like, science is just magic that's become accepted, like socially acceptable. But like, think about the moon and how the moon pulls the tide, and how our bodies are made up of water. So like, certainly the moon has an effect on us. And the same way the sun makes the plants push themselves up from the soil and grow and stretch their petals towards the sun, like we as human beings and earthly bodies do the same thing. We rise and we expand our petals when we are greeted by the sun. This also makes me think about how you mentioned that if we just look at what's happening, which is the planets appear to be moving backwards, so maybe we should literally just reflect. Like, that's really like a very beautiful and some like simple way of approaching retrogrades and magic in general,
and just connecting to the universe from some people may not find value in that. So I think a lot of patriarchal minded people are centered on knowing everything, having control, and like a science-based mind would say, nope, that's not how it is because I don't have evidence for it. Oh, good night. Like, they're just like, yep, cool. And that's great if that makes you happy. But I'm interested in like the power of the not knowing, and the power of because that, to me, that doesn't mean that it's not real or that it doesn't exist. It's just, or that it's not real for others. And it's like, it's very interesting to me to think about that, because it can be dismissive, but everyone's, can believe what they want to believe. But the mere fact of this is happening, can we connect the motion with some sort of emotion within ourselves just because?
Because as above, so below.
Not because we're witches, maybe just because we're people.
Yes.
Or, it's just interesting.
We're people who exist on planet Earth as a part of solar system, as a part of the universe.
Set of circumstances for us to be here.
Absolutely. So why wouldn't the planets have some sort of effect on our daily lives? Yes.
And the most, like you mentioned, the most obvious of those being the moon and the sun, our main homes. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that.
Mom and dad, grandma, grandpa,
the moon, light and dark. So, it's a very obvious example of light and dark, shade and light. And it's just like, okay, it's very obvious like how this works. And the moon literally pulls the tides and affects our planet, and it makes it bulge out, like, because it pulls so much. And did you know that the sun pulls the tides as well, but just not as strongly?
Interesting.
Yeah, the sun does affect the tides, but not the moon. The moon has more of a gravitational pull or something like that. Not
it's closer to us than the sun.
Right. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, but it does a little bit. So it makes me wonder, like, without the sun, like, what would the tides do? Like it's yeah. But that's the moon is the most obvious celestial body in our lives, and it's my personal center of my practice. It's not everybody's, but it's just the thing that called to me. And so, yes, for people to deny that other celestial bodies that are further away don't have an impact on us at all is a little like, and then there's menstrual cycles and things like that, and cycles of people that, have that experience that's connected to the phases of the moon and all these synchronicities that are, as you would say, delicious. They're yummy. So it's like, well,
I think
So,
like
yeah.
something that bums me out about retrogrades is that I sense this, especially with the growing popularity of the occult. Excuse me.
big head nod.
There's this fear-mongering energy
Yes.
that I find when I log into social media about, oh my god, it's retrograde.
It's
like, batten
retrograde.
down the hatches.
Yeah.
And I don't think it needs to be that dramatic. I think that we are conditioned to be in this go, 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 go state of existence for survival, a lot of us. And so when retrograde brings in this need to slow down, it can feel a little scary. But the ebb and flow between energies, between polarities is the life cycle. It's part of existence. The dance between the sun and the moon, the dance between active magic and receptive magic is just part of life and part of the mystery. And retrogrades really invite us to make space for that slowing, for that reflection. And I think it was Little Native Boy on Instagram who said, retrogrades are prompts. They are not to be feared. They are guides for how you can live during a certain time.
It's like practice, or it's like a fire drill.
Yes.
Almost when you're in school and they're like, okay, we're time to practice this. It's like, okay, it's like a lesson plan almost.
Yes.
If you want to think of it like that. Because I totally am with you. I'm so sick of seeing like, oh shit, it's Mercury retrograde. I don't know.
Don't do anything.
It's almost like been commercialized at this point.
Yes, absolutely.
Because
yeah.
it's trendy.
Yeah, people are using it to sell things.
I mean,
now.
witchcraft in general has been commercialized
Yeah.
at this point, but I mean, I saw like a Dove commercial and I was like, oh yeah? Interesting. Like print. I'm seeing it in like print or like herbal. If this was the 90s, herbal essences would have a commercial.
Absolutely, with like a practical magic vibe.
Yeah. And that's cool, but also weird. That's a whole nother topic. But like, I do notice that it's all this fear mongering and just like, oh no, it's a retrograde. And that doesn't mean that like, things aren't gonna change for you or feel different, but I do think that the collective fear-mongering mindset of retrograde affects your experience of retrograde itself.
And it can make you miss the lesson because you're so afraid of just the experience.
Things going wrong or
Absolutely. And when it comes to Mercury retrograde, like, yes, there are annoying things that happen. Like my navigation
communication breakdowns
did not work at all during retrograde. I was going all over the place and it was fine. I was planning more time out when I could.
I drop shit.
Yeah.
Literally, I'm just like I'll try to light this candle. I'm just like, oh no,
Everything's falling.
Sorry, I dropped it, but, like, everything is falling. I don't have balance. I feel imbalanced.
That's funny.
Communication, emails don't go through. People don't get back to me.
I'm realizing the balance thing. That was something that dawned on me this recent retrograde too. But I
Really?
didn't think like whether or not it was connected. But then once
Physical.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
literally
really funny.
imbalanced.
Yeah.
It's weird, right?
This most recent Mercury retrograde, we just exited out of it like a couple of weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah. We
But
should know.
I had stuff coming up and out of me from 12 years ago that I thought I was over, but I realized I didn't actually grieve and process that experience. I just kept going and my life changed and I ignored this entire part of myself. And I had to spend some time grieving, making art about that grief, making playlists, making collages, writing stories, and just like getting it all out of me. And I was like, oh my God, like, am I not over this? Did I make huge life mistakes? And I realized, no, I just didn't have any time to be sad about it while it was happening. And I think that retrogrades can be a really helpful reminder that our healing process is not linear. And grief, we've talked about grief a lot on this show, but grief is not a linear experience. And we might go for weeks, months, years feeling okay. And then all of a sudden this bubble rises to the surface and we can't push it down anymore. And retrograde is a really good time to offer yourself that kind of healing, offer yourself that kind of tenderness. And, you know, the thing you said about the fire drill, I think that's a really good analogy because it might not relate to what you're currently moving through. The messages of a retrograde might not immediately relate to what you're currently moving through. It might not be what's on the lesson plan, but it has to happen now.
Because it's fixed. And that, hey, we can't tell Mercury when to spin the other way or whatever the fuck it's doing. You know what I mean?
They tell us.
They tell and that's that, you know? That's very interesting. I've had a lot of, over the past year really, but really this past retrograde, I was deeply depressed. Yeah. And for other reasons, whatever, but it did bring up a lot of like, for me, it was like old stuff needs to go. Like you need to like hug your inner child and move the fuck on. You know what I mean? Like truly just, you're not the person you were.
Yeah.
And if you're someone like, I believe both of us who would numb our pain through substances or, you know, other things for a long time, that's what I did. I was addicted to pot, you guys, like it's nothing crazy, but I'm like, what's his name? Bob Saget. And it's like, I suck dick for Coke at the thing. I'm like, Half Baked. I'm like Dave Chappelle in Half Baked. When he goes to the meeting, they're like, what? But it's a real thing, and you can be addicted, okay?
Yeah.
So you can be addicted to anything.
To literally anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
Okay. People eat lip gloss and stuff. It's fine.
You can be addicted to literally anything. Being a human's so weird.
Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, that has been a big lesson lately, and I think that this past retrograde really, I don't know, it's like a feeling of rock bottom comes to mind, like, or mentally, where it's like, okay, I'm fucking miserable. Okay, I'm done being miserable now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because I'm a Gemini or not. There's the first mention. But it's just, sometimes I'm just over it when I'm over it. And I'm grateful for whatever that, for being like, all right, am I going to spend my life feeling like this? Or am I going to like buck up and in a healthy way, like just not, just let that go a little bit.
And if it wasn't for like the pause and the reflection that the retrograde forces upon us, like we would just still be carrying that shit around
and just moving through it without recognition. And then someday it's going to come. Exactly. And
it consumes our energy subconsciously. And that's energy that we could be spending on literally anything else. I think it's interesting that you went back to that kind of time, because for me, it was the same thing. Yeah. Like I was going back to the worst time in my substance abuse. For me, it was alcohol, cocaine, and MDMA. It was so much fun.
Alcohol for me too. I should mention that.
But I was also awful.
So much fun.
Awful.
So
there was a reason I didn't have a platform back then, because I was a fucking mess. Like I was not born the person that I am. No. I had to, and I continue to be a student of the universe. But for me, it was a lot of like heart healing through purging. I had to get it out. And so I think it's really interesting that your experience is kind of similar. Yeah. We really are all mirrors for one another.
And you know what else was weird about the timing of the retrograde with my therapist? I see a therapist, a talk therapist currently. She like had to dip out on me for like 2 weeks during the retrograde.
She was going through it.
She actually is from Texas and was volunteering to help the students that were affected by the shooting there. So I wasn't angry, you know what I mean? But it was like
the timing.
She's very cool. But the timing of it, I was like, oh no. And I was a hot load of emotions, and things I was dealing with some like situational stuff too, where I was like, oh no, this thing is going to happen and I'm anxious about it.
Yeah.
But point being, and it felt like it was retrograde. I was like, oh fuck, it's retrograde too at first. But then I feel like it's sort of, you know what I mean? Like, cause there's the whole thing, and it's like, oh shit. we see all the memes and if they're funny.
They're
you know
so
what I mean?
funny. I love trashy
great.
astrology memes.
I love trashy astrology.
I love them.
Period.
I love it.
Period. Give me a generic Gemini two-faced
Delicious.
bitch shit
Absolutely.
all day long.
I love
am
it.
not offended.
Yes. Like repost.
Like repost. I'm a piece of shit Gemini. Love it so hard.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
But they're jokes,
But
everyone.
they're jokes. Okay.
They lack the nuance and the complexity.
They're not like, oh, it'd be cool if you had somebody like make memes specifically for you based on your chart.
That's a job idea. That's a really
job
good business idea.
I'm not going to do it.
Me either.
But I fully support if anyone out there wants to make that happen, because that is cool. Like birth chart readings, but they also make you funny memes to repost about
because
yourself.
There are like so many astro apps these days, and that one doesn't exist yet.
You're welcome, somebody. Just sponsor the podcast when
Please
you
make it happen.
monies.
Right.
But I feel like during that time, it was so shitty, but I felt sort of cradled by the stupid retrograde. Like, I felt like, not cradled, like, oh, I love you, but like, hey, pay attention. Just kind of guided by that time. And I think I did take that time to feel like garbage and then sort of climb my way out of it.
Yeah.
It's weird. It wasn't like it was, I don't know. It just felt like so horrible that I was like, okay, I'm sick of this.
Yeah.
Like, I am sick of this shit. Let's get it together.
The only way out is through.
Jinx. So, yeah, I mean, it can be intense, but... Oh, and my other thing I was going to mention was that if you're someone who, like, doesn't see a therapist, can't afford therapy, like... and you're witchy, you're into this kind of thing, maybe giving yourself like retrogrades as markers to explore these things might be helpful. A free and helpful way to sort of go about that. I don't know.
Yes. Instead of like seeing these times as like red flag,
Doomsday.
Cautionary tale.
It's scary.
Right. See them as foundations that we can anchor into instead of swimming against the tide and being in a state of panic about what could happen. We could make like the salmon and swim with the flow. Oh, I switched from tides to rivers.
It's a freshwater fish.
Freshwater fish.
Do you know there are sharks that fuck was I watching? Some cryptid thing, and they were looking for like a monster, but they were talking about how like there's seals that live in lakes, like saltwater seals that live in, I think it's in Alaska. There's
lakes?
There's a big ass lake in Alaska where
Lakes
they live.
freak me out.
Really?
Yeah, it's the expansiveness of the depths in a small contained area.
Oh, so like ocean not so much, or lakes are
Ocean especially stressful. Like
Ocean
it's
is
just
scary.
so vast. Why are whales so big?
They're freaking scary. If I saw one, I would die.
And like I'm a sea witch.
Me too.
I'm a mermaid.
Yes.
Like I
love
worship sea gods, but
Yes.
I'm very reverent and respectful.
Yes, reverent. I'm not going in it. Doesn't.
Lakes,
That's another
yeah.
thing too. It's like, oh, why are you're a sea witch, but you're afraid of the ocean? Yes, bitch, I am.
Because I know how powerful it is.
I'm scared, and honestly, I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. I think I was a sea lion in a past life, and I got eaten by a shark.
I bet you did.
I know what it's like. They're like, unsubscribe to podcast. I literally don't care anymore what people think about this. I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
I remember what it's like to see a shark come up to me and eat me. Like,
Yeah.
I know what that fucking feels like, and it's terrifying.
Absolutely.
And that's why I don't want to die again.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I subscribe to that.
Thank you.
Totally.
I was a sea lion in a past life.
I was a siren, but I was more of the like cove and the shore,
I like that.
not the depths.
I was like in
It's not
the
for me.
depths.
Yeah, I can't.
Anyway, it's not
Too much
fun.
unknown.
I'm like scared right now. Like, that's not.
Before I go in the water at the beach, I ask the water for permission because
I go up to my knees and then
Yeah.
I call it a day. But I will like, I'll like be like, ugh, and let the wave like rush over me. And then I'm like, okay, my head's not going under there though.
I try to put my head under sometimes if I need like a good cleansing, like a natural water
That's
cleansing.
good. Oh,
but I'm
I can't do
always
it.
slightly afraid.
I'll be in like, it'll be like 2 feet of water and I'll just be like planked like, okay, there I baptized myself in this. Yeah, it's a weird relationship, but that's the way it is. I don't know.
I feel like more humans should be reverent of bodies that are larger than ourselves, like the ocean or like the planets, like
Yes.
the moon, like Mercury, like the sun and Jupiter. Absolutely.
Can we talk about Pluto for a minute?
I love Pluto.
Why is it not a planet anymore? Allegedly.
Science?
Like who decided that Pluto
But not
wasn't-
astrologers.
But not astrologers.
I think it was
I know the
NASA.
least about Pluto, I think.
You know,
Do
for
we have
me,
do we have houses in Pluto? Is that a thing? I don't know.
yeah, isn't it
We
the
do.
12th house is ruled by Pluto? And I believe that Pluto is associated with Scorpio. And then like Pluto would
Pluto's
be
one of
Hades.
those like Pluto's one of those houses where it's like it's all the same for 8 years.
It is, yes.
So I call those the boring ones. Where I'm like,
Capricorn.
eh.
It seems boring, right? But it's about like the collective change.
Such a piece of shit. I know. I'm like, it's not a specific one to me. I don't want it.
If this doesn't make me special, I
This
do not care.
It's the same for everyone my age. I don't fucking care.
But those are the ones that like the most radical shifts in society come
Right.
from.
It's like societal things.
And I think our
Such an
generation is Pluto in Capricorn, which is interesting because Capricorn is one of those signs that I, Gemini, like struggle with.
I was just thinking that today.
And I
That's so
birthed a
weird.
Capricorn.
You birthed a Capricorn?
I know. I was like, what?
I think my Mars is in. No, I'm gonna have to pull out my phone and.
I have a stellium in Capricorn.
What's a stellium?
A stellium is when you have 3 or more planets in one sign. So I have a
Oh.
stellium in Capricorn, which
have
means
one of
that I'm
those.
destined to be successful and abundant.
Are you?
God willing.
Wait, three or more other than your. Does your sun and moon count?
Yeah, all of them
Wait,
count.
do I have a stellium?
So like I have a Gemini stellium, a Capricorn stellium, and a Cancer stellium.
So it's 3 or more. Mm-hmm. I don't have a stellium at all.
What?
That's so sad. But I got
a lot
my
of
Mars
variety.
is in Capricorn, so my Neptune and my Mars are in Capricorn.
Mars and Capricorn is interesting.
I
to
know
me.
it's like
'Cause,
let's
like
get it
Aries,
done.
That's a lot of ram,
That's
goat
a lot of
energy.
go, but that's like business, right? That's like let's get shit fucking done.
Yeah.
Aggressive.
Well, it's interesting because Capricorn is at the end of the zodiac and Aries is the first sign. So, like, Capricorn is kind of like the curmudgeon who's like, I've done this before, just do it my way
Right.
and we'll get it done right. And Aries is like, let's fucking try something.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely more Capricorn. I want a
So the two of them
stellium.
together, I could see them like getting a lot done when they can finally agree on what it is that they're doing.
Yeah, I'm definitely more Capricorn. Yeah, and I have Mercury and Venus in Cancer, and then my Saturn, and my Uranus are in Sagittarius, and my Pisces is in Jupiter. Oh wait, where's Pluto?
Jupiter's in Pisces.
Scorpio for me. And
Pluto's
Pluto.
in Scorpio. Yeah.
That's the whole point of that was to find out my
I think
Pluto.
my Pluto's in Scorpio too.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you looking on
Where's
your
my
CoStar
time passages? No, so I use time passages,
app? Ooh, time passes.
which is it costs $30 one
Oh.
time, but it's the best.
Oh, that's cool.
It is the best astrology app that there is, made by actual astrologers.
Oh,
My Pluto's in Scorpio too. My Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are in Capricorn.
I like how you say Uranus and not Uranus like me. I like emphasize the
Your
anus.
anus.
I'm in your anus.
Your anus is in Capricorn.
Your anus.
And that's the
love
show,
it.
folks.
Where is Uranus? Tell us down below.
Send us at the
Comment
witch
below.
line. Let us
Yeah.
know
Let us know.
where your
God.
anus is.
That's the most important placement is Uranus. But retrogrades, though.
Retrogrades.
What other kinds of retrogrades are there? Does everything move? I don't know.
So there's currently a Jupiter here.
The other ones are
wrote down
jealous.
some really good ones because I think we're currently in a major retrograde.
And I believe you're right.
Where's my show notes?
But like, where's, Jupiter's
Jupiter.
Like, man, that Mercury gets all the attention.
Right. Well, it's because Mercury does this how many times? It's 3 to 4 times a year.
6 to 8
And then it ends up being 6 to 8 months.
Half the year we're in retrograde.
Yeah, half of the year we are in Mercury retrograde. And currently we're in a Mars retrograde, which goes from, we're in a Jupiter retrograde.
Jupiter.
Mm-hmm. And that goes all the way through November.
Fun. What does that even entail?
So Jupiter is like Zeus. So that's like your big daddy luck, abundance, expansion, where Saturn is about like contraction and what we're getting rid of and digging into our discipline. Yeah. Jupiter helps you cash in on those disciplines that have been serving you so well through your studies with Saturn. But it's interesting because those bigger planets affect not just us individually, like they affect the shift of our societies and our systems. So this should be an interesting one. It's retrograding through Pisces. And this is according to Lisa Stardust Tarot. Its job is to push us out of our comfort zones and into uncharted territories, even if that means leaping before we look. So that's like big Fool card energy of like, I just have to do this. It feels right. I can't explain why. I just know it needs to be done. And so that's like a little bit of courage, a little bit of bravery, which I like. Yes.
I love that. I'm in a very like state of, I don't really care anymore. But then my therapist told me not to say that. Don't say you don't care. Say you don't. She said something else, but I just still say I don't care.
I don't have the capacity for that right now.
I don't have the capacity to change the way I speak. My lingo is wants to say I don't care, so that's working for me. But yeah, if I were a therapist, I'd probably be like, let's rephrase the way you're saying that. I'm like, lady, I'm fine. Let me talk. But yeah, no, I'm in a very, I don't care. I'm trying not to let go of, maybe that's part of that too, is like I'm letting go of what people think of me. I'm letting go of trying to please everybody on the internet. I'm letting go of all that because if I do that, it stifles the fuck out of me. And I'm not saying let's just say whatever we want and be disrespectful. I'm saying let's just not, I don't care. And to have separations with like my business and my personal life and to not take things personally, et cetera, et cetera. But that's scary, and that's like leaping before you look. Talk about just sort of throwing it all out the window.
Yeah.
I told you all I was a sea lion in another life. Like, I do not care. That's a part of it.
Exactly. Being able to express your art. You are an artist. It's scary putting yourself out there and like showing your heart to the world through the things that you create and like wondering how people will receive it. But I was in a really good group session yesterday with Kyron Armand, and a message that he gave to one of the people in the group, and really it was for all of us, was like, your job is to focus on what brings you joy and not give a fuck about anything else.
Yes. Period. Have fun. Period.
As long as, you are keeping your side of the street clean, you are honoring your alignment with this planet, like just do what makes you happy and you will find that that's the greatest service that you can bring to planet Earth in this lifetime.
That's so true. And truly just being like, I just want to have fun and do fun things. I want to create things that are fun. I don't want to think about it too much, and I just don't. Because if you tell a Gemini person, I mentioned it again, to think too much or to like, oh, it's not fun anymore. To be like, no, you got to proofread your essay. It's like, no, I don't.
No, I only turn in the final draft.
No, I only write the final draft.
I don't.
There is no mistake.
There is no outline.
There is no outline. That's it. And I'm done and I'm hungry now. Like, that's it. Period. Like, that's how I operate. Even this, it's like, like when Mike edits it, I'm like, I don't want to listen to it again. Some people, and I would definitely offer you that option to be like, hey, do you want to, I'd just be like, nope, I said what I said.
It's already done.
It's done. The energy was there, and it's very, but
you feel that way now, but come a retrograde, you might find.
Exactly.
Yes.
But come a retrograde, I might be forced to sort of be
revisit something.
hey.
Yeah. And that's okay. You know,
That's fine.
Sometimes things aren't meant to be dealt with in the moment. And that's another lesson of retrogrades. It's like shit might happen and then you have to come back to it later. And
Yeah.
that's just the way it worked out this time.
I'm riding the vibe. And that vibe will end at some point. But it's like seasonal too, in the way that, you know, we're approaching midsummer. It's like peak. For me, it's like peak fun energy time.
Absolutely.
For most people, they probably feel like, woohoo, it's summer,
Yeah,
you know.
in the northern hemisphere.
In the northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sorry, Australia. I always forget about that shit. For those of us in the northern hemisphere.
Earth's crazy.
Earth's crazy. And yeah, it ebbs and flows. And I'd be interested, this is a larger question for not us probably, but just how the planets and the retrogrades interact with the seasonal changes. And like, that's a whole, it's like when people are trying to solve crimes and they have just the strings of,
like
that's
Charlie
my brain right now
and
is
Always
like,
Sunny.
yeah, he's like
connecting all the lines.
yeah, like that's literally what and then I go, oh, that's too much, and then I
gotta tap out.
That's too much for me. But it's fascinating that there are those of us that are into it.
Yeah,
and can keep track.
The seasons. I love talking about the seasons. Yeah.
So I wonder if the seasons have any sort of effect on retrogrades and planets, and
or
I'm
if sure,
the planets
like the
have
way we
effect.
experience them.
I think the seasons exist because of the sun and the moon.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
I wonder how the planets affect, or if that's even been like studied.
Right.
That's a lot.
Someone
of
smarter than
thinking.
us. Can you
ponder
report
that?
back?
It might be interesting to.
I guess like my best tips for moving through Mercury retrograde are have patience with yourself. Have patience with yourself, especially if you find that you're revisiting stuff that you already dealt with, that you already moved through, got over, resolved, because sometimes you just have to go back to square one, and that's part of the game of life. My next tip would be give yourself some extra time before leaving the house. If you have a flight and you're booking it, double check which your destination.
Your emails, like
make sure exactly who that email or text message is going to before you hit send.
And that the files are
check.
Attached.
Yes.
Things like that.
Yeah. If you've got to move, like do your due diligence and make sure you feel really good about this. And also like be open to the possibility that like this might not be the forever move for you, even if you have to do it right now. I've started 2 different jobs, muggle jobs during Mercury retrogrades. And both of them ended up being hilariously chaotic, LMAO, but because of that, they like boosted my earning potential. My like jump from job to job boosted my earning potential. And when I finally got fired from my last industry job, my unemployment situation was pretty great.
That's
so
great.
like, you know what? Sometimes you just have to give into the chaos that retrograde brings you.
That was a gift.
It was a gift.
Sometimes the chaos is a gift.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I was thinking about all my shitty muggle jobs, and I was like, I wonder if they were like retrograde related. Right? Now I'm like, I want to track my life, my past, and see what that's a whole thing. That's what you pay astrologers to do, right?
Absolutely.
So you should support an astrologer
support
that knows.
your local astrologer.
Support your local
Absolutely.
astrologer.
And like, most great leaders, or at least most quote unquote successful leaders, have some sort of astrologer behind them making the moves. Walter Mercado met with multiple
Historically.
presidents, actors, celebrities. So having an astrologer by your side who you trust is a very powerful ally to have.
Yeah. Historically, there's a very interesting history with just kings and public figures that have been affected by astrology, astrologers, like magicians, like advisors, like it's
Entire empires.
So interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, the way it's been affected by that.
I think the United States is in its Pluto return right now.
Oh yeah. Not Uranus.
Not Uranus.
Darn.
I know.
Sure feels like it sometimes.
I feel like Uranus would be more fun.
It is. Do you have any interesting questions? I have one that makes sense for today.
Okay, let's do that one. Let's do that one.
That makes a good one. Let's see.
I'm gonna ditch this scarf that doesn't want to stay in my hair.
Ditch it.
Goodbye, scarf.
Alrighty. Jamie Lovestar asked, how do you feel about doing spell work during an eclipse?
I love talking about eclipses.
Let's talk about eclipses.
Absolutely. So I am a Latin American diasporic person. My family comes from both the Caribbean and all over this place that is now called Mexico. And something that I've learned through studying with one of my teachers, Erika Buenaflor, is that our ancient Mesoamerican ancestors feared eclipses. These were times, especially like when the sun gets covered by the moon, because like the sun is our king, the sun is our life force. And for them to be shrouded in the mystery of the moon is kind of a scary time, but it was also believed to be the time when dangerous spirits were able to roam freely, because this is all of our earth. We have to remember this. There are seasons in which the less than helpful spirits are free to roam. It's their time. And eclipses were one of those times because we were shrouded in darkness. So it was best to stay inside and to protect yourself during those times. Also, another thing that I know is popular among a lot of Mexican folk practitioners, and it might be popular in other parts of Latin America as well, but protecting pregnant women during eclipses, keeping them inside, keeping the windows closed, all the curtains closed, and putting silver coins on their bodies to protect them from any malicious spirits that might be passing through.
So they don't have demon babies?
Exactly, yes. True, literally.
Literally
I've seen The Omen.
Rosemary's Baby.
I've seen all those movies. Weird shit can happen, man.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's really funny that we've been conditioned to be fucking terrified of Mercury retrograde, which is really a journaling prompt.
Truly,
and
a fire drill.
We go outside with like solar glasses and stare at eclipses. We like literally invite the chaos into our life and stare directly at it, burning our retinas.
Literally.
And parts of our souls, possibly. Not literally. Don't freak out, everyone.
I don't know.
It's interesting. Like, I, in my tradition, wouldn't cast a spell during an eclipse. Would I cast during Mercury retrograde? I've done it. I'm very particular about the type of magic that I will do during a retrograde. But yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's stuff about healing, processing, transformation, revealing things. That's all great magic to do during Merc RX if that's your thing. But eclipses, I personally don't cast under. With that said, like, look to your ancestry, because your ancestors' relationship to the celestial bodies will tell you exactly what you need to know. And depending on what part of the globe they're from, that will explain their relationship to these celestial entities. And you might discover that like your ancestors were like, fuck yeah, this is the time to do the shit. And in which case, like, you should do it too. But the most potent magic is authentic magic. And when you dig deep into yourself and your blood and your connection to the earth, like, that's when you can find those answers. So I guess my answer is not yes or no.
I totally agree with that. Absolutely. It's very interesting about the Latin American. I did not know that. But I will tell you my little experience I just had with this fucking eclipse. So, like I said, I've been depressed in a weird state. I'm okay, don't worry. But I like being open about it because
you have to be.
I am not I am not alone.
We all go through this.
I am not alone.
Yes.
And the lunar eclipse that just happened. I felt the weirdest energy from it. But I felt like it was drawing out the desperately sad side of myself. I literally stood there and stared at it for like an hour. And I was chanting, I will not repeat what I was chanting in my head, but I felt like it wasn't like I was possessed, but it was not something I would do again. And it was really interesting because I was like transfixed on it, and it's cool to see, and you know, it's not going to burn your eyes at night.
Ah, yes. That was an intense,
It was, you know what I'm talking about. It was so fucking weird.
Yeah.
Just it was like, okay, I was sort of, because when I do spell work or rituals, a lot of the time I'll get an incantation or a chant going, and I like to repeat that. I like the repetitive words.
That's magic.
That's like what a lot of people do. But it comes to me, and what came to me, I can't remember. Maybe I'll tell what it was. It was like, I can't remember. It was something about disappearing. It was something about disappearing. But as I was chanting, I meant what I meant it to be was not what it was turning into. And I think that's because the eclipse was fucking crazy weird. And so I stopped and I was like, oh, we're not on the same page here, are we, eclipse? I think I'm gonna not say that anymore. Because when you say you want to disappear, it's not really a great thing. There's a lot of nuance with that statement. Okay, so I was like, oh, I want my like sadness to disappear. I want to disappear out of the state I'm in.
Yeah.
It was sad,
but it wasn't matching.
But it wasn't matching. Yeah. I was like, no, I don't want to go to like some weird dimension though, so I'm gonna stop.
That's some
like it was very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And as like a lunar witch, like a very heavy lunar witch, I was like, oh, I can fuck with this. And then I was just like, no. You're not the moon I know right now.
No,
you're not the person the person.
Yeah.
I know right now. Like, I don't know who, it's like when you hear stories about like a glitch in the Matrix or like a doppelganger. I felt like it was a weird doppelganger of the moon. So it was weird.
Well, and also like when we think about ourselves as humans being in a state that is different from our joy.
Yeah.
Whether it's like a deep depression, however it comes through for you. Like, is an eclipse that moment for like mom and dad in the sky? And like,
right.
You know, like maybe. They can't help us then.
Yeah.
Because they're not their best selves.
Truly, that's what it felt like. And
I didn't go outside that night. I am California sober, so I do occasionally still smoke cannabis.
Oh no! Keep me away from that.
But that night, my husband was like, "Do you want to step outside with me?" And the spirits were like, "You're not going anywhere."
No.
They're like, you're going to wrap your head in white and you're going to stay inside. I
felt this weird pressure to go and look at the fucking eclipse because everybody and their mom are like, have you seen it? Did you go outside and look at it? I was like, no, not yet. And then I was like, I really should because I'm a witch. What am I doing now? Looking at the eclipse. And then I shamed myself into going outside. And I shouldn't have done that.
No, your intuition already knew.
It already knew. And I was like, I'm sure it's great. And I was like, it's like once in a lifetime thing you should see. And I'm like, fuck, the peer pressure.
Yes.
Literal witch peer pressure. That's why I went outside. And I'm an advocate believer that if you do not feel like doing magic, don't fucking do it. I don't care if the moon is full. I don't care if it's showing its anus or its Uranus. I don't care what the moon is doing outside. If you're not feeling it, don't do it. I don't adhere to this whole like every full moon you have to do something bullshit. I don't like that. So But I broke my rule. But it was
Because we're just humans, you
and
know?
like quarantine and like, oh, we want to experience things together. And but it was weird.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't like you. Bye. And I was just like, I'm going to cut this off and just kind of.
Not everything is for us. I think
No.
that's something humans really have gotten confused
Oh,
through
God.
like colonialism and patriarchy
Oh my
too.
God,
Not
yes.
everything is for everyone
This
all the
isn't for
time.
me. and like you said, the eclipse, someone might have had a fucking revelation during this lunar eclipse.
Totally.
And that is not to dismay you at all. That is your experience. And if that's your culture's belief or whatever, it's beautiful. And I would love to learn more about it. And I'm not saying that's not my belief, but that particular eclipse did not vibe.
Yeah.
So I understand sort of what you're saying
Yeah.
with the, I was like, oh, this is like scary.
It's spooky. Eclipses are spooky.
It's like the feeling I get on Samhain, but like times 1,000, where the veil is thin, where you're like, ooh, like tinglies and things, like I can feel that. But this was like, oh wow, like I was just like in a whole nother. I was like, where am I?
Also with like Samhain, we are invited to the party. Like it's Samhain, it's like
I feel
humans
like
and spirits collide and combine.
We're
But the
throwing
blood
the party.
moon, that eclipse,
That was
they're like,
weird.
please don't come to
Like,
this
you're
show.
not invited to this.
They said, please don't come to this show. And
love
people are
Samhain.
photographing it with their iPhones.
Yeah.
No, thank you. That's a hard pass for me. But
It's weird. I love Samhain. We'll talk about Samhain.
we'll do an
another
episode.
Oh,
yeah,
yes, we are. I have so much
absolutely.
fun shit.
There
I
will
do
probably be
during
more than
Samhain.
one.
I love that it is a party. Yeah, I'm going to save all that though. So
Is it time for
Spirit Candy.
Channeled messages from our spirit guides.
So I channeled a little something through the tarot, and I was working with the Threads of Fate deck, which is also purple and delicious. That's why I used it. And what I pulled was the Seeker of Swords, and from another deck I pulled La Gran Diosa, who's a Mesoamerican fertility, abundance deity. Right. And I really love that the Seeker of Swords came through, because swords are the suit of air and associated with, again, Mercury. And I think that the Seeker of Swords, the Page of Swords, who's kind of lost with how to use it, is very Mercury RX vibes. Like, I have this message. What do I do now? What came through was the Seeker of Swords, like Mercury retrogrades, bring us sudden news. They may come through external influences, word of mouth, media, messages, emails, etc., or through the spirit, a sudden knowing, awareness, or clarity that you did not possess before. The truths that come to your awareness may not be the most comfortable or ideal. Sometimes our expectations don't match up with the realities presented to us, and that's okay. Rather than seeing this as a failure, and what is a failure anyway? Who decides this for us?
who decides that?
Who decides?
I'm here for this.
Is it possible that this is an opportunity to reimagine all or part of the plan? Is it possible that this disruption, this pause, isn't to hold you back, but to help you realign your vision with your personal truth? The Seeker of Swords does not come to us alone. They arrive with La Gran Diosa, a Mesoamerican earth deity of the realms of fertility, abundance, and the underworld. La Gran Diosa reminds us that the sword is a seed, and that her soil is bountiful and dense with nutrients, that we may feel the sting of the sword's blade during a retrograde, but there's more for us than just this point of pain. The energy of movement is ripe with magic, and she invites us to take our reaction to our newfound clarity, to our awareness, and channel it into tending our gardens of intention. You might not know what to do with the realization at the moment you receive it, and that's okay. Take that confusion to the altar and ask for clarity. Or better yet, ask for guidance on how to respond to what you do know. Ask for guidance on how to respond to what you do feel. We're constantly receiving loads of difficult, sad, violent news. And yeah, when I channeled this, it was after the shooting had happened. This week feels particularly amplified and heavy. The Seeker of Sword affirms that we might not know what to do with all of this information as it pours in. The Seeker of Swords takes imperfect action as best they know how. They keep their minds and hearts open to correction, to alternate perspectives and insights. The Grandiosa reminds us that even in the midst of difficulty, there are windows of opportunity with the realms of spirit, that we may hold our sorrows close and hold our dreams close too. We can weep for what is happening, and we can pray for what is to come. She holds us while we mourn, and she invites us to drop our prayers and petitions into the pools of our tears. She tells us that it may seem difficult or pointless to even dream of a different future, but that it is our hope, our faith, and in the possibilities of a world beyond this that help us to take those dreams and bring them into creation. Something else that called out to me was the bird imagery of the 2 cards, inviting us to literally give some attention to listening to the birds during retrogrades, especially, but all the time. Messengers of the heavens. The birds, especially during spring, talk not only to each other, but to those of us human beings who will listen. Like nature's own guided meditation. Give it a try. They're happy to share their messages, insights, and wisdom. And their messages are abundant. I find that the birds are chattiest at dawn, but the blessing of springtime and summer is that you will hear them throughout the day. The spirit said, I love you, your spirits love you, your ancestors love you. Be sure to step outside today, if only for a few deep breaths.
Oh, that's so nice.
It's a good one.
It's a really good one. While you were saying that, I sort of got responses to that from my spirits. And it was a lot of like, yes, go back to, when you're talking about going back to simplicity, when you feel like take it to the altar, it was like, yes, go back to simplicity. Like, just don't try to analyze everything all at once, and just take it where you feel safe, and take it to your altar space, and to just sort of lay it there, and that's an okay state to be in, is to be like, like to just be overwhelmed and having no answers and no, that just to feel supported in any way that you can feel supported. That's, and going and not trying to fix everything and analyze everything and have these like you said, what is failure anyway? Like, what, it's just like, what is it anyway? It's like, whose standards are we abiding by? Just find peace where you can find peace.
Find peace where you can find peace, truly.
That's what I heard. And that's good, because I didn't really have anything profound. Okay. I haven't been hearing a lot of literal messages, but I've been getting messages, just more visual. Like, I've seen a fuck ton of butterflies.
Yeah.
A fuck ton of butterflies. And I mean, and I'm going to get a butterfly tattoo on my hand because of it.
That's so funny, because I've been obsessed with butterflies lately.
What
And
the
then you
fuck?
posted about your nails and butterfly, and I was like, what's going on? Yeah.
Okay, that's weird, because maybe this is like a communal thing, because I got my nails done, got a little butterfly decal. It's on my middle finger.
It's
I'm not
really
flipping
cute.
you off. And I was like, I'm not like typically into butterflies.
Me either.
I'm not.
I feel like 90s tattoo culture made me anti-butterfly
Yes,
for a little while.
Exactly. But now I'm seeing them everywhere, and I see them in my backyard, and I associate them with like my dead dog sometimes, and fluttery things, and it was the nail art was just a whim. And then I'm having trouble sleeping, which is weird for me because I'm a Taurus. So, well, I'm a Taurus rising, but sleep is not an issue.
Yeah. Touch toes.
We touch our toes sometimes. That's cute. And I woke up, this happened like 4 nights in a row. I woke up, and sometimes I get hungry. So I'm a Taurus rising. So I couldn't sleep, and I'm like, is my blood sugar low? Do I need a PB&J? So I go in the kitchen, I look at the kitchen clock, and it's 2:22. And I'm like, okay, whatever, it's 2:22. Weird. The next night, I go in, and same thing happens, and I'm like wandering around the house like a ghost. I'm just like, I cannot sleep. And I look and I'm up for a while. It's not like I wake up and I look at my phone or whatever and I see the time. I walk in the kitchen and it's 3:33. And I'm like, what the fuck? And out loud I'm like, interesting. You know, like Mike's like asleep.
Yeah.
And then it happens again and it's 4:44. And I go, what the fuck? Like, are you kidding me right now? So I've just been having these like angel number, repetitive number experiences. And I'm like, okay. So it's been nice.
Yeah.
So it was nice. And then I was like, oh, I should. And I got the idea to get like a hummingbird.
A butterfly.
A butterfly tattoo on my hand. And I was like, oh, but maybe I'll get a toad or, you know, a little sprig of lavender, like something off my list, you know. And then I go to the mall yesterday and I'm walking out of the mall and there's a girl wearing a butterfly shirt, a big ass butterfly on her shirt walking in. And that happened like 2 other times where I was just like, okay.
I hear you.
My spirits would like me to get a butterfly tattoo.
A transformation.
And to know that like I said, I've been feeling better. They want me to know that I'm on the right path. I'm doing better. This is a transitional period.
Yes.
And I just thought that was a nice message. And when you listen and pay attention to things,
nature speaks to you.
it's synchronicities, man. So
The caterpillar has to turn into a big puddle of goo before they can be.
truly, I've
butterfly.
been a puddle of goo. And now I feel like in this fit. Doesn't mean forever I'm going to be a butterfly, but you know,
it's always
for now
a
I'm like
process.
in a good place. So I thought that was a really I'm sure many of you listening and watching have had experiences like that, and don't take them lightly. Don't just one time maybe be like, oh, okay. But if you're kind of a skeptical, I'm not a skeptical person, but I'm was raised in a skeptical environment.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up Catholic, so we're also very skeptical.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, I don't want to say I'm a healthy skeptic when it comes to things. So yeah, with the first time, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, it's 222. Oh my God, I'm a goddess. Like, that's just not my energy. And I don't always look for the positive. I'm a realist. I'm not a pessimist. I'm a realist. And that's just how I am. But yeah, but with that, I was like, okay, this is undeniable. So sometimes there's just undeniable things, and taking note of that and connecting with that is such a beautiful thing and a beautiful way to live your life. And what a comforting thing too. So I wanted to shout out my spirits on the pod, be like, thank you guys. And I appreciate it. And you're great, and show some gratitude. And I thought that was very lovely.
Yeah, I love that. Butterflies are magical.
Now I need more tattoos.
Always.
Yeah, always. So
Never enough.
well, I thought that was great.
This was a
It
good
was a good episode.
This was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was very
I
interesting.
feel like we might end up revisiting retrogrades at some point, maybe.
Maybe there'll be some event where we need to
Yeah.
reconvene about this.
Yeah, totally. I think there's another Mercury RX coming up this fall.
Fun. No, we're looking forward to it.
We are. Looking forward to the reflection and the rest.
Right. Well, thanks for tuning in to Third Eye Bind.
Be sure to give us a call on the Third Eye line. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Hello.
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 Thank you so much for listening. You can follow the podcast at Third Eye Bind Pod on Instagram. There, submit your questions via the Third Eye line by sending us a voice message or text DM. The show is available wherever you listen to podcasts and for you to watch on YouTube. Get early access to episodes and even monthly one-on-one sessions with us by joining our Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/thirdeyebind. Third Eye Bind is produced and edited by Mike Realm. Hosted by Caitlin Grania and Laura Wong. Music by Mike Realm. Set design by Laura Wong. You can find Laura on Instagram at Lady Moon Co. And you can find Caitlin on Instagram at Spirit Garden Tarot.